Hello, everybody. I'm really, really happy to be here today to talk about my journey with Pawsome and just share with you all whatever I've experienced in the last 1+ years, right? So, like Abhijit said, I am an engineer, major computer science. I completed my engineering in PSG Tech in Coimbatore, where I'm from. And, I got placed in Bangalore right after college, and I moved to Bangalore to work with Cisco. And I absolutely loved my job back then. And it was a company to work for. It was a fantastic set of people that I was working with. But I think, like any other millennial, after a point of time I got bored. And I wanted to do something more with my life. And I think I'm getting a little too comfortable at Cisco, after a few years. And I started thinking about leaving Cisco and joining my father's company. So my father happens to run a stockbroking and wealth management firm. And so I started thinking about leaving Cisco and coming back to Coimbatore to join my father. And finally, in 2019, I took the plunge. I left Bangalore. I came back to Coimbatore. But after my return, right, I thought it would be, just all work. Coimbatore is not a great place to, have a very active social life. Definitely not like Bangalore. And most of my friends had left Coimbatore, and, I didn't know too many people when I came back as well. So for me, it was just going to be, work with dad, move the company forward. It's all the fun's over in life, right? But what I didn't realize when I returned was that, and what I did not expect at all was, the start of this completely unexpected journey, which was the birth of the Pawsome People Project. And back in September 2019, what was just an Instagram account is now a full-fledged animal welfare, organization, a trust. And what was just a bunch of, random strangers who met for the first time a year and a half ago is now a 300 strong volunteer family. And this family together wants to make the world a better place with the help of dogs. And we truly believe dogs can. So that's the story of the Pawsome People Project. And now, just to give you a little bit of backstory on how it started, right? Um, when I returned to Coimbatore in 2019, I noticed, the great number of street dogs on my own street itself. And this was, way more than what I had noticed before I left Coimbatore. And I just kept wondering how this is like a huge increase in the number of dogs. And I've always been a dog lover. I'm an ardent animal lover. So it sort of, struck me as to want to go out and help them out. And when I was thinking about how to help these dogs, something else struck me, right? While I was in Bangalore, I had watched this documentary called Dogs on Netflix. And the first episode of that particular documentary was basically about a service dog and how this service dog, Rory, transformed the life of this little girl with epilepsy. Basically, just completely changed her life for the better. And I remember being so overwhelmed while watching that particular episode because I grew up with a hearing impaired sister. So I kept, drawing parallels between this little girl and my sister. And I couldn't help but wonder, could my sister's life have been better if she had a service dog herself? And it was just a normal Sunday, and it went to the back of my mind, and I had forgotten about it after that. But when I saw these street dogs in Coimbatore, this documentary came back to me immediately. And suddenly this idea struck me, right? We have so many dogs on the streets doing absolutely nothing, suffering, getting abused, injured, and whatnot. Why not take them in, train them as service dogs, and then place them in homes of differently able people in India? They get a home, and the person whose home they go into is also benefited. So it was like a win-win situation. And I was so pumped about this idea. And I didn't really know too much about street dogs in India, didn't really interact with any of them too much, apart from just giving them a couple of biscuits here and there. So I didn't know anything about this space, actually. So what I did immediately was I contacted founder of the local animal shelter here in Coimbatore. And I sort of told her, I have this idea and I really want to do it. What do you think about it? And she sat me down and she was like, listen, there are so many other problems that are bigger than this particular idea that you have. And if you want to get into this animal welfare space, I would suggest you start, tackling one of these problems. So after a long conversation with her, I identified as the two main problems as, number one, there is a serious lack of manpower, a serious lack of number of people working for the welfare of street dogs. And number two, there is a serious lack of funding as well available for these street dogs. And because of these two things, coupled with a really serious lack of regulation in this country, the dogs are suffering and the population is increasing exponentially on a daily basis as well. So I sort of, slightly shifted my idea, and I decided, maybe I should try and solve these two issues first. I went back home that day. I immediately took out my phone. I spoke to a few friends who are fellow animal lovers, and I told them, I really want to do something. I want to get people together to, start helping dogs, and I want to be able to raise funds as well. So I created an Instagram account. I put up some pictures on the Instagram account about street dogs and how I plan to save them. And I waited for a couple of days and shared it with all my friends to gain a few followers. I think in like 2-3 days I had about 50 followers. And that Friday I sort of opened up registrations for people to volunteer. September 15, 2019 was Pawsome's first ever volunteer meeting, and we had 30 people there that day. 30 strangers who had no idea just came together for one reason, which was dogs, and just came together because they had it in them to do something for these voiceless creatures, right? I remember talking to these people who I had no idea who they were. First time I was meeting them, we all agreed on one thing: definitely there has to be some change that has to happen. That was the start of the Pawsome People Project, and I guess the rest is history, right? Today we have more than 300 volunteers. We're present in 5 cities in India. And the 30 people that I met initially are some of my closest friends now. So Pawsome, the name, the Pawsome People Project, right? For me, initially it was about the people. I wanted to save differently abled people. And, the bonus was the dogs. So I sort of kept that idea there, right? So it's not just an animal welfare NGO. The uniqueness about this particular NGO is the fact that it's also about the people. We want to get a group of people together, not just to help dogs, but also to help themselves, right? And to become change makers and to grow as an individual and spread that energy to the rest of the community as well. So when you enter Pawsome as a volunteer, you're not just, entering to help dogs, but you're also entering a family of sorts. And we sort of keep this family together with the help of, a lot of meetings, a lot of interactions off the agenda, like potlucks, pet-friendly meetings, games nights and all of that, right? And that model has worked really well for us because we are constantly getting in volunteers, and they're mostly youngsters because I think Coimbatore as a city is quite entertainment starved. So more people want to come in, and more people sort of, give us the reason that they want to help dogs, but we also see that they make friends as well. So when I came to Coimbatore in 2019, I didn't really know too many people because most of my friends had left town. But today I can say I have 300 friends for sure because all my volunteers have become my close friends over the past few years, right? And that, I think, is what we're trying to do in the rest of the cities that we have expanded to as well. Now, Pawsome as an NGO, we've done some great work so far. We've evolved as an organization. We've helped with, sterilizing street dogs. We've helped adopting dogs. We've helped with spreading the message. So our goal as an organization is basically to make the world or make India a better place for both us and the dogs, and to tell people the story of our Indian street dogs, right? And to tell people that they are not just, useless creatures, as someone would call them. And they're not here as because they have nowhere else to go. They're here because this is their home. They're one of the oldest dogs in the world. And we wanted people their story so that people start respecting these dogs and people start, giving them the love that they truly deserve, right? So far, our short-term goal is to control the overpopulation because today India has more than 13 million street dogs. That poses a huge problem, not just for the dogs, but also for human beings, right? Because that's when the conflict also arises between humans and dogs. So first, we want to control the population by humanely sterilizing these dogs. Number two, we want to get people to adopt these dogs, right? We want to endorse the whole adopt, don't shop brand. And we want to ensure that people are adopting dogs instead of buying dogs from unethical breeders, and increasing the foreign breed in India. And finally, our ultimate goal is to start training these dogs, make them, service dogs or therapy dogs or any, a dog that can help anybody, right? And put them in homes so that they change lives. And we really believe that, we can do this. And we've definitely come a long way. I was a 25-year-old when I started this, and I had no experience in running an NGO. I had no experience with working with street dogs. And today I would never imagined, someone had asked me in 2019, do you think Pawsome would be where it is today? I would have said, no way. It would just be a couple of people coming together every weekend and helping dogs. But now it's become sort of a movement, and we're really proud of this movement. And we believe that together we can make this change happen, right? Like I told you, Pawsome, it's not just about the dogs. It's become more than an NGO now, right? So since September 2019, 300 youngsters in Coimbatore have come together. Close to 100 youngsters across India in the other cities. We're only building those chapters now. We just reopened to those chapters a few weeks ago. So about 100 youngsters in 4 other cities in India are coming together. And that family is steady and fastly growing as well, to become a voice for the voiceless, right? So it is a platform for youngsters to escape their everyday lives and become superheroes for the thousands and millions of helpless dogs. Every single volunteer in our organization is doing this out of pure passion. It's a 100% volunteer-led organization, including myself. We all have our day jobs. We all have our 9 to 5s, and we all have, our usual meetings and whatnot. But everybody looks to Pawsome as an escape, and everybody looks to Pawsome as a platform where they can be someone bigger than that they thought they were, right? They can be a hero for thousands of street dogs. And in the end, we're all youngsters, and we're all, here to have fun as well. So the whole fun element is a big part of our organization as well. Because, every event that we organize, every fundraiser that we organize, we have so many volunteers coming together on a daily basis, spending sleepless nights together, planning the marketing, execution, operations of all these events. Recently, we also hosted Tamil Nadu's first ever pet festival, fundraiser pet festival. And we saw 4,000 people come together for a single day, and close to 300 dogs for a day of awareness, a day of fun, just to come together and tell the story of the Indian Pariah dog, and tell them that, these dogs deserve homes, and these dogs deserve love as well. And we do this mainly through events. We do this mainly through our social media. We have posts going out every week about street dogs, about, educational content and informational content about dogs in general as well, so that people learn about street dogs, people learn more about dogs in general, and they stop, they stop neglecting them, basically, and they stop treating them as an outsider, because they are very much an insider in this particular country. Now, just to talk a little bit about the future of Pawsome, of course, we want to expand our reach to more cities in India. We want to start a social revolution. I keep telling my volunteers that, that together we can start this social revolution. We want 300, 400, 30,000, 40,000 in the future, and very soon. And we also want to start, indie experience centers across India. And we're piloting that in Coimbatore, where we're just getting some infrastructure put in place, and we're going to get just street dogs into that infrastructure. And we want to show people what indies are. The indies, I mean, are Indian Pariah dogs, right? And we want people to experience indies. And want to start indie experience centers across India as well. And finally, through these experience centers, they will become training centers as well for service dogs. So ultimately, I think we want people to associate Pawsome with not just an animal welfare NGO, but with an experience that people can join and be a part of, and make a change in this country, in our country. So I just want to close by sharing a few stories, a few inspiring stories that I've seen in my organization. The first one's about me personally, so I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Yeah, I hope you can see my screen. So this particular dog, his name is Snowy, and he lives right outside my apartment in Coimbatore. And he's 10 years old now. So I've seen him. I've actually seen him for many years, right from when I was in school, college, and everything. Never really interacted with him at all, right? So after Pawsome started, we realized that Snowy was not sterilized. So since he was right outside my house, it was my obligation or my responsibility to sterilize him. So he's a very friendly dog, very trusting dog. And I remember I picked him up. I would, feed him every day for a few days. So he became very friendly with me and he started trusting me. And then finally picked him up and put him in my car. If you've seen the second picture there. And I took him to the animal shelter to get him neutered, right? And I remember that car journey, he was shaking in fear. He was looking at me like as if I betrayed his trust, because uh, I think he thought that I was taking him somewhere that he didn't want to be at, right? And I felt so heartbroken. I was like, oh my God, I hope I could just tell him, what I'm doing and, how I feel. And yeah, so finally I took him to the shelter. He was, fighting. He did not like to be there. He was biting the grill and everything. And I said bye to him and I came back and I felt really bad. And I was like, oh my God, what are we doing? Is this something that, is it right what we're doing to these dogs? And then I thought Snowy's going to hate me for sure. He's going to not trust me anymore at all. And then 5 days later after his surgery, when I went to pick him up again, the moment I stepped into the gate of the shelter, he jumped on that grill and his tail was wagging so vigorously. And I was just like, wow, these creatures are incredible. I just picked him up from his home, put him in an unknown place for 5 days, and here he is, so excited to see me again, right? And that I think is dogs in a nutshell for all of you. I mean, they'll never, stop trusting you. They are the most loyal creatures ever. So yeah, I picked him up. The car ride back, he stuck his head outside the window and he was enjoying his ride back and he was so excited to see me. And yeah, Snowy and I have become best friends since, and I meet him almost on a daily basis. I play with him outside my house as well. So that's just one inspiring story that I wanted to share, because Snowy sort of changed my perception of street dogs. He was my first solo sterilization, and after that, my perception of street dogs just completely changed. And I was like, wow, these are amazing creatures. Uh, until one loved an animal, a part of one's soul remains unawakened. And we here are aiming to awaken every single soul in India and to be the voice for those who can't speak and to make India a better place for dogs and in turn human beings as well. Thank you so much. I had a wonderful time talking to you all.